Okay. Ryan Clark and RG3, social media smackdown that nobody asked for, right? I don't even know. I've had experiences with Robert Griffin, and all of them have been like beyond pleasurable, right? In the spirit of honesty, I've talked with people who I've worked with at ESPN who have never had like a bad experience with Robert, but I have heard people be like, there was this. But like, I can tell you right now, let's start off with the positive, okay? 3 years ago, I had just gotten out of like a terrible relationship. And I had to move out of this house abruptly that I was living in with this partner. And it was my own fault. I got myself in this situation. But, like you pack all your stuff up in a car, you've been there if you know what I'm talking about, right? I had put a lot of money into this situation. And we're, like I said, getting a house and stuff. So, I mean, like I was like cash poor. Not like I'm rich in other ways. I was just poor, I guess. So I go back to live in Waco, where at the time I'm working. I was living in Dallas. And my friend Julie Hayes is like, yeah, Robert is putting on a free camp at McGregor High School in Waco. Julie's like, I'd love for you to go and come and be a part of it. Robert would love to have you there. And it was me and about 5 or 6 other dudes who had worked in sports before. This is before I started like full-time doing games at ESPN. So I met Robert. He is like so awesome. He's having so much fun with the kids. This is a free camp. It's him and his wife and his mom's there. He spends all day there, all day, and was so cool with these kids. Talk to them. Like, you can't fake that. And that goes to my statement at the end, what Ryan Clark had to say. Like when Ryan Clark says, RG3 is a phony. By the way, we might have some traffic in here. My mom may be coming through with the physical therapist. We'll just have to play it cool, okay? But I can tell you that RG3 was not a phony. And at the end of the day, we all got thank you cards from Julie Hayes and RG3. And there were $200 in the cards. Like, as far as I was concerned, we were just doing it for charity. But that like hit me to the core. Like, wow, he did not have to do this. Clearly, he spent money to put on the camp, right? There were all kinds of prizes, awards, you name it, for the kids, right? And now he's paying like, people that have been helping out. Nobody was expecting that, right? So we have here as our graphic, the social media smackdown no one asked for. That day, that was the card that no one asked for. And the impact he made on those kids at McGregor, it was all underprivileged kids, right? And he made it seem seamless. So like that is very real. So when Ryan Clark calls him a phony, I'm kind of like, is he really a phony? Like, I don't know. Like if Robert Griffin is doing all these divisive, evil things behind the scenes, I'm not aware of it. And I don't know anybody else that is. Is Robert Griffin corny? Yes. Okay. That's okay. You can be corny and still be a great guy. Is he married to a beautiful white woman? Yes. Is there anything wrong with that? No. Is there anything wrong with Ryan Clark being married to a beautiful black woman? No. Okay. But yesterday on social media, all of this stuff was called into question. And like when I was in college and when I graduated college, and this is before I got sober, and a bunch of my buddies and I, there were like 15 or 20 of us, right? We had this email chain. We called it the Loop, right? And really what it was an unhealthy place for toxic masculinity. And I'm all about like guys talking. I played football in college and high school, and I love a little locker room talk. And, I can break balls with the best of them. And I have 2 older brothers who taught me how to receive the ball breakage. Okay. So I'm all for that. But when you start to like, and again, this is not in person what these guys are doing, and nor was it with this email loop I had. And on this email loop, I saw, like, again, you got a bunch of 20-somethings and some professionals, some not. A lot of us partying, drinking, using drugs or whatever. I saw these like fights happen on this loop, like, which was like, these fights over email where it would get super personal, but it was in front of an audience. This is like 1999 now, way before Twitter or anything, and 2000, And I remember thinking like, this is so weird and unhealthy. And I got into a couple of those fights, and it made my stomach Like, I'd be so mad at this person, and I was going to let them know with the keyboards, you know? And yesterday, that's what we saw with RG3 and Ryan Clark. And it's like so mystifying. First of all, Scotty Swingler, I need you right here, okay? Because I wrestle with this, okay? Scotty Swingler back in the home office, which I will be back with him tomorrow on Wednesday.
Come
on. I can't tell you how much I miss you, Scotty. But a question like this will remind you. Is this entertaining? Is Ryan Clark and Robert Griffin going back and forth on social media talking about personal stuff that is ugly? Is there entertainment to this?
No, this is exhausting. In fact, when I texted you about this last night, one of the things I said is, wait a minute, I like both of you guys on TV. Could you both shut up? Because I enjoy both of their personalities on television. I think they are both entertaining on television. But the personal crap, man, and then the back and forth of like, this is what kind of man you are, and you're phony, and that. No, dude, it feels like seventh graders. When I was in seventh grade on AOL Instant Messenger.
Yes, that's what I was talking about with my buddies. Like,
yes, exactly.
It's a fool's errand, and it really is. Like, any psychologist or therapist would be like, guys, what in the world are you doing? By the way, there's talk out there, and I don't give any of it any credence because it's on that, it's out there in the social media cesspool, right? Like the real deep end of the pool. But like Ryan Clark, like people are calling for him to lose his job,
That's ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah.
I know. And Robert Griffin didn't help because he said, this is a bad look for you, ESPN. Dude.
Yeah, I don't like Robert going after ESPN. I think that's kind of weird.
Every single one of these guys has their own platform now. Ryan Clark made his initial comments on his personal podcast. Cancel his podcast. Don't listen to his podcast. But then don't call for him to lose his job at ESPN. Like Does
it affect the way? Does it affect the way that you will receive? And because we're always going to have Ryan Clark as an analyst, like somehow in our life. RG3 is back, right in your face this year, which I'm pumped about. The number 2 crew with Jason Benetti on Fox College Football. Does it affect the way you'll receive some of their analysis this year? Because I do think it is, but it's a little. I think you're right, but it does take a minute. It will take a minute for me to like get on board. Like, I still think this is super weird.
Yeah, no. Here's it's weird because again, it feels like, and as we've both said, it feels like this middle school dramatic like fight in the parking lot, because if both, I hate to use the trope like stick to football because I don't think that's always true. Like RG3 and Ryan Clark both talk about social issues and politics, and please use your platform to talk about what's important to you. That's fine. But when I say stick to football, I mean, if in this case, I want to hear you guys talk about football. I do not want to hear your beef with this other commentator, former football player. I don't want to hear about it. And I think there's this thing that comes with being a guy that I think can be toxic, and I think in this case is toxic, where we feel this need that we have to defend ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to get into the race baity stuff because it's not my place to comment on that.
For sure.
But Ryan Clark's initial comments about RG3 and Angel Reese probably overstepped.
Yeah.
RG3 put out a 2-minute video on Twitter like, hey, bro, don't come at my family, which I think all of us who have a family are like, yup, let's keep professional and personal separate. Like, that's important, right? But then they both came back again, and with Ryan Clark, like we know what it is, bro. You're a phony. And I'm like, okay, now we're just slapping each other in the parking lot.
But that is, and by the way, that's got to be a mega sore spot for RG3 because we have heard that, right? Like he wasn't the best teammate. Like we hear whispers of that.
Well, okay, and he addressed this when he and Stephen A. had their scuffle three months ago. There is a history of Robert Griffin And again, not my place to comment on the merits of any of this, but there's a history of Robert Griffin being called like less than black by commentators in the past. Like, this isn't the first time a notable sports commentator has come in and questioned like his blackness. And again, it's not my place to make statements of any type, but like, you can understand why Griffin would jump in and be like, "What? Slow down, bro. Like, it's not about my wife, and like, I have black daughters, and why are we even talking about it this way, right? Like, I understand the initial kind of back and forth, but then the way it's just going to carry on, and this is going to be a topic. I had First Take on this morning, thinking at any moment they were going to bring this up, and
they didn't though. So
I was kind of glad they didn't.
Yeah, but well, I think they're way too compromised with like everything with you. I don't think now. I can guarantee you that Stephen A will talk about this on his show,
on his podcast, right?
Yes, he will talk about it on his show. My mom is outside, actually making faces through the window.
Good for her.
Yeah, it's good to know she's doing great. I can say one thing too. This is one thing that Ryan Clark skipped. You know, I've been in an interracial relationship, and I have friends who have married partners, right? Interracial relationships, like, and they can tell you, like, you know, that's not a total picnic. Like, you know, people staring at you, you know what I mean? Like, and so that can be something that's different for folks to, like, you know, grapple with, or however you want to say.
Yeah, dude.
Like, that's not a walk in the park either. It's not like it's like some easy way out. You can look at, you know, that we're seeing here.
Yeah, and maybe I'm naive, Pete, but I want to live in a society where you can fall in love with and marry who you want, and it doesn't say anything about your character or validity to have an opinion.
Yeah.
I want to live in a society where you and Nick Wright both got on your shows yesterday and said, hey, this Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark thing would be way more intense if Angel Reese was the same level of player as Caitlin Clark. You and Nick Wright both said that yesterday, and it's not because either of you are racist. It's because we're all watching basketball, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think the temperature gets elevated so quickly around these things, and like, sports are supposed to be fun, man. Like, RG3 saying Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, that is part of the sports like soap opera that is. Right?
So if you were, let me ask you one question, and then we're going to move on. If you were a superstar celebrity, right? How would you treat it if you were like RG3? Would you just not respond? Like, would you just say, because honestly, I think that is the move.
Well, like, I can't speak super accurately because there's a racial component I don't understand. But like, if someone that was that public talked poorly about my marriage, and Ryan Clark came back and said, I didn't say anything about your marriage. Yes, he did. Yeah. Like, yes, he did. We all heard what he said. If someone, I think I would feel the need to publicly, I think RG3's first response was fine. Like, hey, bro, don't come at my family. Like, leave it at sports, leave it at basketball. You can talk about me, don't talk about my wife and kids. I think I resonate with that really deeply. I think where RG3 and RC both just got off is when it starts getting personal. Like, this shows what kind of man you are, RC. I hope you get well, bruh. And then RC's like, you're a phony, worst teammate I've ever had. It's like, okay, all right, guys.
Dude, could you imagine?
Take this to a text message. Like, we don't all need to see this on Twitter.
I mean, like, dude, when I was a kid, I just can't imagine, like, if Irv Cross from the NFL Today was going toe-to-toe with Tom Brookshire, who was like an analyst for CBS, you know what I mean? Like, if these guys were fighting about, like, if Irv Cross was calling Brookshire drunk, and if if Brookshire said, Irv, when we played together in Philly, you never went over the middle, you were soft. Like, that was, like, so out of the realm of possibility. But, like, here we are. This is such... And I think one of the most fascinating things about this is this new landscape. You know, I work for ESPN. I have this show. Like, now I'm not anywhere, I'm nowhere near like the reception or the lightning rod type ability, or nor do I ever want to say anything, right? That's that toxic that would draw that type of attention to this show here. But like, it is crazy, or not crazy. It's eye-opening, I guess, how much how much different the landscape is getting really before our eyes. Like it's amazing. Like even 5 years ago or 6 years ago, ESPN, they were like, we're done. Nobody talk about politics anymore. And most people did, but then it kind of ramps back up. And now it's just like, you have your own platform, you do your thing, but when you're here, do your job. And pretty much people have abided by that. Like, dude, when I signed my contract with ESPN, there was nothing in there about like, hey, you can't have this show or you can't have, I mean, and I've
because that's the new media landscape we live in, is everyone has their platform and everyone's trying to grow their following. So here's the bottom line about this too that we didn't even discuss. This drama is probably actually good for both of these guys. Like they both
think so?
They both got more clicks and hits, and RC got more hits on his podcast yesterday, I'm guessing, than he's gotten in a year. Like, and that's kind of the toxic underbelly of this social media. Everyone has a voice publicly space we live in.